All right. Recently, we have seen, since last year and now definitely coming into this year, we have a problem in hip hop with overrated so-called stars, so to speak, right? We've been to the top tier of that last year with Drake and everything about him being revealed. Now we come down to the lower tier of, in my opinion, problematic overrated stars with Jim Jones, formerly of Dipset fame. Now, recently on the Joe and Jada podcast with rappers Fat Joe and Jadakiss, Jim Jones was asked a question about a young man comparing him to Nas, which I don't know if this was some kind of thing Jim Jones set up for this kid to do this, but for some reason this young man went off on this tangent comparing, this is hip hop blasphemy, comparing Jim Jones to Nas. Let's listen to that right quick.
You said Jim Jones has more hits than Nas?
I'm from New Jersey. We grew up on ballin'.
That's one.
We did not grow up on one mic. Pop Champagne, Summer in Miami. That's a classic.
If I Rule the World. How's that comparable to those songs you just said?
I'm 22. Every Nas song that my man MJ played, we said we heard that from what, Dub?
2K.
2K. Those songs are in the video game.
Okay.
I have never in my life said at a party, yo, throwing that Nas right now. If you did top 3 influential people regarding dressing, swag, Jim Jones is top 3.
But Nas influenced Jim Jones.
Cap, Chrome Hearts and the BB Simons belts and all that, Jim Jones is like top 3.
So where you put Max B?
Nobody was wearing Ed Hardy. Nobody was wearing True Religion. Nobody was wearing Chrome Hearts. All that was white biker stuff. He brought that into the culture.
And how old are you, real quick? 23. So Nas first dropped 94, right? So that's a different time period where this is not really even checking for numbers yet. He came in at a period where he's checking for the skill of the game. You're comparing two different eras, and I feel like it's a little bit disingenuous.
It's a difference between being in the game and being relevant. But Jim Jones is more relevant than Nas.
Jim Jones and Nas are in the same era. Jim Jones is 48 years old. Nas is 51 years old. Jim Jones just wasn't a rapper and didn't know how to rap when Nas was rapping. No matter what Jim Jones has improved to, it's still not Nas.
But you know what's funny? But you know what's funny? The last Nas album is not better than the last Jim Jones album. It's not better than the last 3 Jim Jones albums. By bars, by everything. El Capo
is better.
The Deluxe is better than King's Disease.
Okay, so that was a clip from the Don't Quote Me podcast. Shout out to D-Rec Williams, one of the legends in hip hop media space. And first things first, the ages of the gentlemen speaking were 22 and 23 years old that were critical of Nas in comparison to Jim Jones. Okay, and he mentioned 2 records there. He mentioned We Fly High, which is Ballin', and he mentioned Pop Champagne. Now, Ballin', which is actually titled We Fly High, was released in 2006. Pop Champagne was released in 2008. So these kids would have been, from 5 to 7 years old at the time. So what are you talking about? This is what you came up on. You wasn't listening to this unless you had never mind, I'm not even gonna say that. This is not a part of your generation, all right? Like the brother said there, Nas and Jim Jones are part of the same generation. It's just that Nas is actually a talented rapper and Jim Jones was a hype man who caught a hit and was, in my opinion, exploited into becoming a rapper. Why? Because, and this is what I want to get into in this video, we're starting to see a real problem. It's been a problem in hip hop, but we're starting to see it really come to the forefront in these recent years where there's a period here that we've gotten over in the last 10 or 15 years where there's been a certain number of hype men and sideline dudes and people who are just a part of the clique and a part of the crew trying to jump to the forefront of being stars and being disrespectful to the people who put them on. Now, Jim Jones came up through Dipset. He was a background guy. He was a hype man. Cameron was the star. Joel Santana was the younger star coming up under Cameron. It's been well documented. Mace, who got on before Cameron, before everybody else, taught Jim Jones how to rap, right? So this guy wasn't even a rapper. So it's not in him to be an artist in the first place, right? This is a clout chase for him. And this is the problem. We have an issue with clout chasers all throughout hip hop, right? And this is what Jim Jones had to say. And it's a delusion that these guys have because basically they're wannabes. But this is what Jim Jones had to say about himself in comparison to Nas with Fat Joe and Jadakiss. Let's take a listen.
I recently saw a clip on Instagram where a young kid was comparing you to Nas and saying that you got
that's my young boy
big hits.
He's wild.
Yo, he looked to you. He learned how to wear the BB Simon belt from you. He got his swag. Like, how crazy is that? Because in my era, you know what I'm saying? Nas is like a god.
In my era too. I mean,
So to be compared,
let me
that young kid out.
He
was young, and we love that he loved Jim Jones. I want you to break
let's break this down. I admired Nas, but remember Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade. So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like you did, came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan. Period. I'd never take that away from him. But then as I got in the game, you got to realize that your rivals would be idols, and not to take anything away from that. I developed my own style and my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different generation. We're talking about 94, 93 when I was in 11th grade. It's 2025. There's a big gap there, you know what I mean? And I want people to understand that. So when Shorty's telling people that, yeah, he's 20-some years old, that goes to show the part of the era that he's in, that I came into light and started going crazy, that these kids love me. They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
He's your son.
He's your son?
No, but you know,
my son,
they know about
my son
Nas.
can't tell you one Nas record. You heard? Like, let's keep it a buck here.
Yeah, let's keep
it a buck. You heard? Let's keep it a buck because you'll bring it up. There must be some type of misconception or what's that word? When it comes to Jim Jones and what Jim Jones have done in this game. A lot of these rappers,
We made him take the darkies off.
a lot of these rappers have done a tremendous job, and I take nothing away from them. But they forget, I got a hell of a catalog. Me, Jim Jones, myself, gold records, platinum records, gold albums, platinum albums. No, me, Jim Jones. No diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. Check my track record, then check everybody else's track record. Then go to the billboards and check all my entries, then check all them niggas' entries and shit like that. I'm not taking nothing away from nobody, but I hear the comparisons and the niggas be trying to act funny when it comes. No, I've been spanking a lot of this shit. I'm talking about the industry. I've been putting on. So let's not get into that where we get into the numbers and I gotta show you the statistics of what I've done. You heard to what other people has done. You heard if you want to go to the billboard entries, pull up Nas billboard entries and pull up my billboard entries.
Listen, we can't compare the two. What
Now, later on in that clip, go check it out on Joe and Jada's podcast. You know, he humbled down a little bit as Jada Kiss kind of pressed him a little bit, and Fat Joe kind of pressed him a little bit on the disrespect, right? And, you know, just tried to make him see that it's unnecessary to speak the way he was speaking towards Nas. And really, it's funny because Jada Kiss and Fat Joe are the perfect people for him to make those comments in front of for two different reasons. One, because Jada Kiss, in many people's eyes, is at the very least a top 20 MC of all time. Most people top 10, right? Fat Joe, who had a career before the star he was kind of next to in Terror Squad, Big Pun, who, you know, passed away. But Fat Joe has always given reverence to Pun as the better MC in the clique, right? Whereas Jim Jones, whenever he could and whenever he had the opportunity, in my opinion, has been disrespectful towards Cameron and Mace and the people who really are responsible for his career and put him on. And Cameron had this to say.
You was a fan, nigga.
And that's something that Jim Jones needed to hear, and I think hasn't got the message of yet, or is not willing to face that reality. That he is a fan. And we have too many other fans in hip hop culture, Drake being one of them. That's what the collecting of everybody's memorabilia is about and all this nonsense that he does. But anyway, this leads us right into what is happening now, which the video's coming on Pusha T calling out Travis Scott, because Travis Scott also is a person who is disrespectful to not only people who put him on, but to people who helped him out. That video will be coming soon. But we have a lot of people, and I'm sorry for the younger generation, because I believe in the next few years, you're gonna have to realize that a lot of the people you look up to are complete busters when it comes to this hip hop culture. That's just gonna be the reality of it. And I'm gonna be honest, as a member of the older generation, a lot of it is our fault, because a lot of us, hip hop became a very clout chasey genre of music because of its popularity. A lot of people who really don't know anything about the culture and about the art form of rapping and hip hop music and such pretend to be into it because it's the cool thing to do. It's the cool thing to know. It's the cool thing to be a part of. It's cool to dress hip hop. It's cool to use slang words that you don't really know the meaning of. All of that, right? But we have a lot of MCs and stars, and Jim Jones is a perfect example. Travis Scott is a perfect example. Drake's ability to rise to the top of the game is a perfect example of the culture losing its way and becoming too corporate and too exploited by a bunch of people who are not only disrespectful, but just frauds. Just out and out frauding to be down. You ain't got a lot to kick it. Shout out to Kendrick Lamar. That became such a staple in the game. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people's heroes are about to see themselves fall. And listen, defending it It's just it's a lose-lose situation. Don't do it. Admit that you're not really into the music like that. Admit that you're not really into the culture like that. Quit jumping online trying to defend these lames. It's not gonna work, okay? The era is over. The era of the fake, fraud, non-talent, ghostwriting having busters is over. It's done. These goofies are done, okay? It's time for the culture to return back to the people who respect it, all right? That's all I got on this situation, man. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hit that like button if you haven't hit that like button yet. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. Share this video. Tell a friend to tell a friend. As I said before, we're going to break down. Probably it's going to be a couple videos on clips. So be it. Lyrical breakdown. Why Travis Scott is not as harmless as he seems and is problematic. And the overall HAN era of hip hop coming to an end as they're being exposed. So thank y'all for watching as always, and we out.